Hey everybody, it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to share some books from my shelves to your TBR. Let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? I hope after this crazy week that you guys are doing very well. The world is kind of in this state of turmoil. As you guys know, I live in Northern California. I live here in Silicon Valley. Lots of huge businesses are basically shutting themselves down, sending people home to work. Mine included. There's a lot of changes going on in my work and things that are going on that are very different than what I'm used to. And just the world in and of itself, going out, going shopping, there's so much stuff that has changed right now. So first, I want to wish you all safety. I hope you guys are all very safe and you have your friends and family with you to support and love you through this time. I think this is one of those events in our history that we will all very well remember. And I hope that it is full of love and warmth and safety. And also, I hope it's full of books. The bookish community and books themselves have gotten us all through so many difficult times in life and in the world. And history is chronicled in novels that get us through times like this. So I hope the bookish community is also doing their part to help you get through this. So it is Women's History Month. That means the Women's Prize for Fiction longlist was announced. I'm not going to do a video on it specifically. I did not have many of the books actually on my shelves. A lot of them I do want to read. I may do something when the shortlist comes out, easier to get 1 or 2 books versus 16. Also, there is no way I cannot read 16 books in 1 month. I just do not have the time with the way my work schedule is. It's impossible. So I don't like to set myself up for that. But there are many amazing books on that list. A lot of them that I have read, I have already talked about. So if you want to talk about any of them, let me know. And actually, a couple of them will actually be in this video for you. So as I always say, get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads. However you keep track of your TBR, because I'm going to add 10 books to it here and now. Maybe some of them you've already read. If you are so able, now more than ever, please order these books from your local independent bookstore. With the way things are right now, foot traffic is down, author events are canceled, so they are getting less people in the door. They need us. So if you are able to, order 1 title, 2 titles. I know a lot of my independent bookstores are offering free shipping right now. Try to support them if you can. It would be really helpful to them. Pre-order books that aren't out for your authors that have books coming out, so that they also, a lot of them who have book tours that have been canceled are really concerned about the launches of their books. We should do what we can to support them if we're able. If you are a library reader, get your library to get you copies of these books. Now, I think, all of these books that I'm going to talk about are out right now, so you should be able to get your hands on them now. So let's get started. I put them in alphabetical order. We're going to talk about the 5 that I read first, and then 5 that are on my TBR. And I'm just doing it alphabetical order by author, as I said. The first book is Amy Bloom's White Houses. This is a fictionalized account of the relationship between Lorena Hickok and Eleanor Roosevelt, set in the 30s and here in the United States. This book really does delve into this relationship between these two women. I think Eleanor Roosevelt is a fascinating historical character. She did so much as a first lady in the United States, but this really dives into a relationship that was really vital to who she was as a person. And Amy Bloom, as we all know, is just a fantastic writer. And I think this book is perfect for Women's History Month because it celebrates one of our great American women writers, but also celebrates one of our great American women of history. That's what I really wanted to say. So that's Amy Bloom's White Houses, and you can get your hands on this now. The next book is actually, I read it because it made the National Book Award for Fiction's long list last year, and it is currently on the long list for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And that is Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy, Brodesser-Akner. And this is a novel of a relationship, a marriage that has just dissolved. Toby is our main character. He is the husband or ex-husband in the relationship. It is told from his perspective through the eyes of someone else. And what we learn very quickly is that Toby has a very distinct perspective on why his marriage ended and his ex-wife and her relationship, not only with him, but also her relationship with their children. But one night he is sort of woken up early in the morning to find out that his ex-wife has left his two children at his house and disappears. And this is sort of his reaction to that. And we learn a lot about how he felt about his ex-wife and their relationship. We also learn about him a lot as how he has decided to live his life now as a man single for the first time really later in life, and sort of dealing with that whole dynamic. But as the novel goes on and sort of everything sort of fleshes out, for lack of a better term, we learn that maybe Toby's perspective on the relationship isn't the end-all be-all, and we eventually do get a perspective from his ex-wife that sort of rounds out this story in such a unique and powerful way. This is a book that would never have been on my radar if not for the National Book Award long list. And I'm so glad I read it. I absolutely loved it. I actually think about it quite often. And that is Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy, Brodesser-Akner. And I have a feeling, I did not listen to that book on audio, but I have a feeling that it would be a great audiobook. There's a certain frenetic energy to it. If the author the narrator could do that right, it would be great to listen to. So I don't know if it is, but I have a feeling it would be a good audiobook. Next, we're going to go to Australia, and we are going to talk about Europa editions, because you know how much I love them. And this is No More Boats by Felicity Castagna, and she helped me out. When I read her book the first time, I really struggled with her last name, and she said, Russell, it's like lasagna, so Castagna. And this is, our buddy read this with my friend Jacqueline over at 6 Minutes to Me, who I love. Hi, Jacqueline. I hope you're doing very, very well. A champion of Australian literature day in and day out. And this book was a finalist for the Miles Franklin Literary Award back in 2018. This is a story of an Italian immigrant in Italy. His name is Antonio, and sort of how his life is currently. He is a construction worker by trade. He was in an accident. His friend wound up dying from that accident. He is no longer being able to work, and his life is sort of in disarray. And it's set against the backdrop of a historical event in Australian history called the Tampa Affair, when a huge boat of refugees was off the coast of Australia, and there was a lot of political indecision on whether or not to allow these people to land on the Australian coast. And it's a real discussion about that idea of a country like Australia, like the United States, that is founded in the world of immigrants. Like, the country as it is currently would not exist without a history of immigration, and how they currently treat immigrants and refugees coming to their country. And Antonio takes a stand one way or the other, I will not tell you which way, that polarizes his family, polarizes the lives of his children, and really changes the dynamic of his neighborhood. And that is No More Boats by Felicity Castagna, out now from Europa. I really liked this book so much, and it taught me something that I didn't know. And that is really what books are all about, especially for books for Women's History Month, where we learn about a topic in history that we may not have any sort of recognition of until you read about it. The next book I've actually talked about a little bit on my channel, but I feel like I need to make sure more and more people read it. And that is Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. And I saw her actually interview Jacqueline Woodson a couple of months ago now for her book, Red of the Bone, and she was fantastic. This is set in it starts in the 1970s in Uruguay. It's a story of 5 women who come together, 5 queer women that come together to find a place of safety where they can come together and be themselves. They wind up in this little remote town on the beach in Uruguay, and they find a little place and they sort of create themselves a home. And this is about their lives as they live through sort of the political nightmare that is Uruguay for many, many years. There is a dictatorship. People disappear in the middle of the night, and there's a lot of stuff where the government is just sort of bearing down on the people of Uruguay. But it's even worse in a lot of ways for these women who cannot be themselves because what they are and who they are is considered a crime in and of itself. We have 5 amazing main characters that we really do get 5 perspectives from, where you really get to know each and every one of them. I actually tweeted about 1/4, no, probably 1/3 of the way through the book, that I was hoping that what I thought was going to happen to one character would not happen because I was very much on her team. And the author was like, well, whose team? And I said, and she's like, oh, I love her. And I was like, please don't let anything bad happen. And lots of stuff happens. This book is at times very sad, but it's also very uplifting. I can 100% attest to the audiobook because I did listen to the audiobook and it is read by the author and it is fantastic. And that is Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis, out now. Highly recommend this book. That actually won the Reading Women Award for Fiction last year, and I'm wearing my Reading Women podcast t-shirt today. So it all comes back. It all comes back together. Last but not least, in the 5 books that I have read is another book that is currently on the Women's Fiction Prize for Longlist Prize. You know what I mean. And that is The Most Fun We Ever Had by Claire Lombardo. I'm going to hold that up there for you. This is out from Doubleday here in the United States. This is for those of you that love a family saga drama over a long period of time. This book is about a family where we have a mother and a father who sort of are seen by their 4 daughters to have the perfect relationship. We learn a lot about the history of the parents, how they became sort of the couple that they are and what they struggled through. But sort of how the book starts is with one sister making the decision to reach out to the child of another sister that was put up for adoption many, many years ago. That child is now sort of homeless. The home that he was in suddenly came to an end and he is looking for somewhere, and the oldest sister swoops in to try to sort of create a home for him and brings him into a family where, other than herself and the mother, the sister who had the child, they didn't know that the boy existed at all, and the dynamic of how that changes this family. And this book is about 4 sisters throughout time, about who they are. They are all very different. It's very much about their dynamic, how, you have the one sister that always thinks they knows what's right. You have the one sister who's sort of always off the beaten path. There's a little bit of how a family really works. And at times you don't like anybody. At times you like everybody. At times you have utter sympathy for them. And at times of them, you just want to shake them and tell them make a different decision. This is a chunkster of a novel, but it is definitely worth the read. And that is The Most Fun We Ever Had by Claire Lombardo, out now. And there's something like simplistically beautiful about this cover. I just love it. Okay, now for the 5 books that I haven't read that are on my TBR, we're going to start with Black Sunday by Tola, Rotimi, Abraham. This is out from Catapult Books right now, set in Nigeria, right outside, well, it starts in Lagos in the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. The mother loses their job. The mother loses the job. I'm struggling with this one, so I'm going to read it. This is about 2 sisters, and their mother loses their job due to political strife, and the family, facing poverty, becomes drawn into a new church, an institution led by a charismatic pastor who is not shy about worshiping earthly wealth. Soon the sisters' father wages the family home on a sure bet that evaporates like smoke. As their parents' marriage collapses in the aftermath of this gamble, the twin sisters and their 2 younger siblings, both boys, are thrust into a reluctant care of their traditional grandmother. Inseparable while they are with their parents to care for them, the twins' paths diverge and the household shatters. Each girl is left to locate, guard, and hone her own fragile source of power. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I, in my head, could say all that, and then on video could not. But I hope that blurb shows you why this book is on my TBR. And that is Black Sunday by Tola, Rotimi, Abraham, out now from Catapult Books. Okay, next is a book that I haven't actually ever talked about on my channel, and that is Teresa Ann Fowler's A Good Neighbor. This is out now from St. Martin. This is my book of the month, well, one of my book of the month picks. This is the story of a woman, well, it's the story of two neighbors. Let's put it that way. The first neighbor is a woman. She's a single mom. She's a professor at the university. She has raised her son, and he is about ready to go to college. On the land next door, someone purchases it. This sort of wealthy local celebrity guy who tears down everything with the intention of building this big mega house and creating his world. Does that make sense? And it comes down to a tree that's on the property line that they are going to wind up fighting over and having sort of this disagreement. This book is about neighbors, but of course, they have a young daughter, and a relationship starts between the daughter and the son that sort of complicates everything else that these two neighbors are feeling towards each other. Yeah, I love like a good neighborhood drama. It sort of reminds me of watching an old episode of, what was that one? What was that TV show with all the wives on the one street? I can't even remember. Terry Hatcher was in it. It just reminds me of that. So this is Teresa Ann Fowler and A Good Neighbor out from St. Martin's Press. Okay. Next is a book that my husband actually picked out and put on my TBR that I talked about, and that is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. I have already heard, because I mentioned this in the video, many people much better like the UK cover. I actually think the US cover is fantastic. This is set in 1600s Norway. We have a young woman who's standing on the coast of this little island as she watches a ship go down at sea, which carries almost all of the men from the tiny town. And what happens is the women of this little island have to come together to support each other and create their own sense of community, and also just take care of each other, make food, make the sort of the economy continue so that they can all survive there on their island. In comes, about a few years later, I think 3 years later, in comes a figure from Scotland who is there with his young sort of meek wife to investigate this island for the heresy, the lack of religion that is there. And the young wife winds up finding a land and a world and a group of women that are strong and independent, and it's something that she is looking for. So it is sort of this world that's trying to modernize through religion, sort of coming into a world that doesn't really need them all that much. And that is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, out now here by Little Brown in the US. Okay, next is a book that I actually just got sent to me that I have been really excited to read. And it's a collection of essays called Minor Feelings, An Asian American Reckoning by Cathy Park Hong. I want to say, I saw one of my friends read this, and I apologize, I can't remember who, but they were raving about it. It says, poet and essayist Cathy Park Hong fearlessly and provocatively blends memoir, cultural criticism, and history to expose fresh truths about racialized consciousness in America. Part memoir and part cultural criticism, this collection is vulnerable, humorous, and provocative, and in its relentless and riveting pursuit of vital questions about family and friendship, art and politics, identity and individuality, that will change the way you think about the world. And she, I believe, is Korean American. Let me make sure of that. It says here, she's the daughter of Korean immigrants. That's correct. So this is Cathy Park Hong's Minor Feelings, An Asian American Reckoning. And this book is out right now. You can get your hands on it. It's out from, let me make sure, One World Publishing. One World has done some stuff that I have loved lately. I just finished The Undocumented Americans that came out from One World by Carla Cornejo Villavicencios. I read Maurice Carlos Ruffin's book last year, loving them. So this is Minor Feelings on essay collection on my TBR. Last but not least is a book, so congratulations, as it just won a National Book Circle Critics Award for, I don't know if it was nonfiction or biography, I apologize. I do know that this is nonfiction. And that is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It is a memoir. I don't really feel like you need me to say much about this book. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you this quote is on the back, because I think this is really all you need. It says, "You will find society asking you for the happy ending, saying, 'Come back when you are better.' When you say, when what you can say makes us feel good, when you have something more uplifting, affirming. This ugliness was something I never asked for. It was dropped on me, and for a long time I worried it made me ugly too. But when I wrote the ugly and painful parts into a statement, an incredible thing happened. The world did not plug its ears. It opened itself to me." Now, she, Chanel Miller, was known originally as Emily Doe in the Brock Turner rape case. He was the young man who raped her and was given only 6 months of time in jail. She was at Stanford, which is right up the street from me, really. And this is her memoir about that experience. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about this. And so that's Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and it is a memoir out now from Viking. There's no way I can hold all those books up. I want to know right now, what are you guys planning on reading for Women's History Month? What books do you think people should be reading more? What books just stand out as books that everyone should have on their TBR to celebrate this month? As always, if you are a return subscriber, I thank you so very, very much. I could not do this without you. As always, if you are new here and this is your first time on my channel, I hope you come back for more. I hope you subscribe, and I hope you like what you hear. As always, I encourage you to shop locally more now than ever. Shop locally. Read globally, because the world needs their stories heard. And until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye.